Okie do I have my notes? I do have my notes ready. All right, let's get this show on the road. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to talk about movies as much as they love watching them. The show where we like to go beyond the review, beyond the reaction, and give you our thoughts on the craft, the story, and the meaning of the show we choose. And today we chose the first 3 episodes of The Rings of Power. Now, we have done a couple of, we did one special on a whole season of the Marvel's, I can't even remember what it's called. WandaVision, that's it. Thanks, Jim, from the control room. But this is the first time we've actually made it part of our regular Sunday show, and kind of excited about it. So let's get into it. I do have my notes in front of me. From the IMDb page, set thousands of years before the events of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power series follows an ensemble cast of characters, both familiar and new, as they confront the long-feared re-emergence of evil to Middle-earth. Basically, this is the story of Sauron's emergence as the big baddie of Middle-earth after the fall of his mentor Morgoth, and the creation of the eponymous Rings of Power, as seen through the eyes of Galadriel, etc., etc. There are a ton of characters here. And as a matter of fact, there's so many, even just in the first few episodes, all worthy of note, that I have just and you'll find it in the description, there is a link to the Wikipedia section on the Rings of Power cast and characters. So check that out. It's like the program. How do you know the players if you don't check the program? Of course, it is based on the books The Lord of the Rings, but really more the Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. It was developed by J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump to the social nutrition checklist. And would it qualify for a reframe stamp? No. Is it union made? Yes. Does it pass the Bechdel test? Yes, it does. And is it class conscious? No, it is not. Not that kind of thing, I guess. Anyway, so that gives us a social nutrition score of 50%. Not bad, not great, but not bad. Anyway, back to here now. Historicity. Yeah. Don't think we could really... You know what? Maybe we'll develop this a little more later if we continue to take a look at this series. But right now, I thought that was just too ambitious a thing. It's too big a thing to talk about the historicity and the historical influences on The Lord of the Rings. So I'm going to skip that for now. And we're just going to bring in my co-host with the most to get this show on the road, and that would be Mr. Jim Chboyko. Jim, how are you, my friend?
Great. Yeah, doing well. Surprisingly, not sleepy for a Sunday night, but it was a great late summer day here, and
Fantastic.
Sort of curious to see what people say about this one. I haven't been reading too many of the reviews, but it's a lot going on. So, interested to hear the responses.
You know what? I know before I was going to ask you this maybe a little later in the show, Jim, but as I think about the full agenda we have tonight, and quickly a quick shout out to Dragon Movie Guy, was the guest co-host while you were away.
Yes,
he's there in the chat.
Thank you,
did
sir.
Great service. We had a great argument, which I still have to post. But Jim, how was it? give us a tight 2-minute review of your
Sure.
trip.
What do I got? 2 minutes. You know, we had been to 9 of Canada's 10 provinces. I say that for our non-Canadian people, reiterating there are 10 provinces. This was our 10th, and we finally got there. So I've been to all 10
Wow.
provinces. I've actually driven in all 10 provinces, interestingly, because we rented a car for a little bit.
Really?
But yeah, I just thought of that. But wow, Quebec, well, basically we went to Montreal, Quebec City, had a side trip, and then Ottawa. And I have to say, what a great province Quebec was. Beautiful, 2 amazing and completely different cities. Montreal sort of gigantic and young, and it was end of summer, super hot. Quebec's sort of an older, super atmospheric place, a lot tighter, a lot easier to sort of walk around. Beautiful. We took a trip up the St. Lawrence, saw beluga whales literally from our motel balcony. Not right there, but out a little bit. And yeah, just really got to know part of Canada that we didn't before. And wow, I would go, I'm the biggest booster right now. So my two big takeaways from Quebec. 1, maple vinaigrette on salad is delicious, way better than it sounds. Not nearly as sweet
That
as you
does
think it
sound
is.
great.
It's really good, and I'd never heard of it before. And the other thing is, this is sort of sounds like a pat answer, but the people, we were sort of worried there's a language, maybe a little bit of a languge barrier,
Well, and not
maybe a
just
little bit
that,
of
the politics of
the
it, right?
politics, yeah, the maybe a little bit of the snootiness about it. Not to worry. Aside from a taxi driver or two and a couple indifferent wait staff, the
Like
Quebecers we met,
everywhere, including here
yeah.
in Winnipeg.
Oh yeah. They were outstandingly friendly, like ridiculously friendly. Anytime you got into a conversation, even with a busy waiter, he would end up telling you that he was going moose hunting, the next day, and he had a week off or something like that. Like, we were approached a lot, where are you from and how do you like this place? And they were charming and funny and proud of their country. A little bit of a slip there. Proud of their province. And they were really fantastic. Super welcoming. And I speak way less French than I thought I did. I at one point I ordered a ham and jambon panini for Carla, which for the uninitiated is a ham and ham panini. And the guy beside
fromage.
Me, this was in the Quebec City train station. The guy beside me giggled out loud.
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I know they're the same thing." And he goes, "Well, at least you are trying." And we had a nice little chat after that. Like, that's the level.
A giggle, not a snicker.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And we found that the whole time, super friendly. And just
fantastic.
Really, we were sad to leave Quebec, actually. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic, Jim. I'm really glad really happy you had that experience.
Yeah.
Listen, before we move on, we've got a full house in the chat, as you can see. Of course, Dragon Movie Guy. And look, Richard L. and I'm sure Katie Fowler are around. And
hey, folks, we should compare notes at some point. Saguenay Fjord was beautiful, so that they've been there as well.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I might have been communicating with them offline, and they were looking forward to hearing your stories. So maybe we can all get together some outdoor bike trip or something sometime while we're still of the weather. Okay. Yes, we also have good day, good day to our good friend Matthew David Bowen down in Australia. Who's you know what? Going through the AFL finals.
Lions, baby. Final four. That's why I'm wearing my Brisbane Lions shirt.
I will. It's great to see everyone. DMG making a smart remark about the passing of the Queen, of course. Yeah, we will not have to change any new money. We'll have to have King Charles III, his visage on it, but we don't have to. It's not like everything's just become, you know, moot. Sorry, all your currency is useless now.
Mhm.
But I also do. You know what? Before we get into the fun and the drama and etc. You know what? It is the 21st anniversary of the 9/11 towers, the attack on the 9/11 towers, and so much death on that day and afterwards, death and injury and suffering. So to our, especially to our, we have a global audience. And
Yeah.
to of course, to our American viewers, but also our viewers who are affected beyond the United States' borders, we say, you know what, yeah, you know what, I'm at a loss for words. Jim, you want to add to that before we get a
Yeah,
move
just
on?
keeping it in mind. I must admit, this one sort of crept up on me, probably because the Queen was such a big story all week, of course.
Hmm.
And so I realized this morning, the date, and I was like, oh yeah, geez. So I was out at the lake, and my wife and daughter apparently binged on 9/11 documentaries all afternoon. So that's one form of and I'll probably end up
Noting
watching a
it.
few of them afterwards. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of actually seems to be a little bit of a tradition. 102 minutes that changed the world, etc. And yeah, there's some exceptional documentaries. Some not so good, but there's a few that are good out there.
Well, and you know what? Again, it's something that changed all our worlds, the
Yes, yeah.
globe, really.
Hmm.
And yeah, as much as I love to get into the politics, I won't get into the politics of this right now. Maybe we'll look at a movie that deals with the subject better. As a matter of fact, we did. Hyena Road really is
Yes, yeah.
part of that. And so I will put a card to Hyena Road. We did a deep dive on that Canadian film, which
Hmm.
is set in Afghanistan, post 9/11 Afghanistan. And yeah, I think that's a great place to leave it. All right, Jim, let's get into. I will say to everyone, much like DMG already has done, if you want us, every now and then we'll check in on the chat. If you want either myself or Jim to chime in, be sure to at me, and that's the full name, at ROB space KRISTJANSSON. And then it comes up bright orange on my display, as you can see in the chat box, and I will then be sure to note it and make sure either Jim or I respond to it. Okay. With that done, let's get into the movie. And Jim, before we get into the spoiler zone, I wanted to ask you, I wanted to get your what were your spoiler-free impressions? Like, just, you've watched all three now. You had asked
Hmm.
me online, so what did you think? I want to know
Yeah.
what
Oh
you
yeah.
think.
Yeah, that was I was on my trip, and you had posted that you were watching them. I was like, well, and I wasn't, I didn't really watch any streaming while I was away, so we caught up once we got home. Yeah, I because we were away and busy and stuff, I sort of ignored a lot of the preamble, all the sort of the
The hype, let's
publicity,
say.
the hype and the publicity
Yeah.
uh, in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, it was one of the first things that we watched when we got home, and yeah, I'm sort of. It reminds me of the Ents. You're like, don't be hasty. We have 8 episodes to sort of make our judgments and things like that. I mean, I clearly have a few things to say about the first three, but it's enjoyable. I'm enjoying watching. This is, for a lot of people, this is new Lord of the Rings material. So yeah, you maybe don't know about, say, Aragorn or that kind of thing. So we're watching a lot of these things develop. I think some of the characters too are developed solely for this show
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, I'm sort
So
of really
first
I
impressions are
oh yeah. So first
yeah.
impressions.
Let's
Sorry. pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd like to see where it's going. There's probably one too many balls in the air right now in terms of pacing. But yeah, I'll side with the Ents and say, don't be too hasty. Let it take its time. I'm enjoying it right
Okay.
now. So
So, all right.
sorry.
No.
Typically short and sweet ends.
Okay. That though is our cue to jump into the spoiler zone. And for anyone who this is the first time they've stumbled upon our little show. It's at this point, there is nothing we won't talk about that's happened on the show. So yeah, if you haven't seen it and you just don't like spoilers, they're just a taboo to you, this would be the time you pause us, you go watch the first 3 episodes, and that's episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then come back and join us in the replay. All right. With that out of the way, Jim, we're going to do it a little bit more classically. Briefly, sure. On craft, is there anyone, hoping to keep this to a tight hour?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Which character, which performer are you most impressed by so far?
The one, and this may just be.
I'm going to limit this a bit.
Yeah.
Lenny Henry's off the table. He is a treasure.
Yes.
That we should all love. So, yes. There you go. He's already up there.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm just re-looking because I haven't memorized his name, but just right off the bat, the elf Aramir is just seems like an interesting dude, to me. The one that's in love with the village
is
maiden.
Is it Aramir or is it Arondir?
Sorry, Arondir. Sorry,
Arondir.
There we go.
Yeah,
Arondir. I apologize.
Ismael Cruz Cordova.
Cordova. And he's a Puerto Rican actor, and he fits right in. Like he totally looks the part. I just thought, and then he pulled a couple moves, and I was like, "Oh, right, there's a bit of a hero moment. I'm in."
Yeah,
I'd follow that guy into being killed. But anyway, so he's the one that sort of strikes me as being pretty interesting. I like Elrond as well. Yeah. But, how about you?
You know what? Myself, I think I've got a soft spot for Markella Kavanaugh playing Nori Brandyfoot. And her buddy, Megan Richards, who plays Poppy Proudfellow. Whenever they're on screen, I'm just totally buying them, right?
Yes,
I initially was a little kind of, this is going to go sideways. I'm talking about Morfydd Clark and her portrayal of Galadriel, and this is not all on her. There's direction. There are producers who say, this is where we're going. That said, as soon as we started to see some opposition to her, I think her performance and her characterization starts to make more sense. And I'm talking about, I'm like, Robert Aramayo, he's also great when he's not with her. But where can I find his, bear with me, guys.
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, Lloyd Owen as Elendil. Once he's on the screen, I'm like, now this is a guy I'd follow.
Yeah.
Why, boy, are you not listening to your father? I'm listening to him. And he's a fake. I just totally bought him. But also Hellbrand, the guy playing Hellbrand. And again, this is, a mix of characterization and portrayal. But I'm like, okay, now we got someone who can stand up to Morfydd's Galadriel, and I'm like, well, now I'm more interested in her because there's somebody who's standing up without it being quite a, to be crass, dick measuring. No, I'm the one with the balls here. Do you know what I mean, Jim? So there's apparently I like half the cast.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean,
uh,
it's no that I mean that's a good point. I mean, it's hard to sort of Morphin Clark. She's kind of what would she be at this point? Chaotic good. She's kind of bonkers, but she's on the right side. But she's a little like she could go either way here. And I like that she's sort of on the verge of insanity. It seems to me, not to be too
well, you know what?
dramatic, but
Let's put a pin in that because there's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
story piece to her characterization that I'm dying to talk to you about.
sure,
But
yeah.
before we get there, let me ask you this: What about what did you think of the? Uh, I'm doing my best not. I kind of stuck. Everyone talks about the world building,
Mm-hmm.
but the grand scope of it. I mean, it's still television. Once they actually get into like some of the drama components, every set gets a lot smaller. But there's
Yeah,
some there's some epic scenes here and big scope in that. What did you
yeah,
think of their ability to sell a world that I mean, everyone's talking about it's $500 million, but it's $500 million in
yeah.
today's dollars for 8 hours of filmmaking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is just not the money that was spent on the original Lord of Wigs. And yes, I know the technology is better and everything, but you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah, I mean, I watched it with Carla, and she pointed out that a lot of these things look real, like a lot, and we can quibble about or with other people about what's computer generated, what's not. But a lot of I think it was when they were walking around the ruined village,
mhm,
the human and the elf were walking around the
yeah,
village, and yeah, it was an actual like village that
mhm.
had been destroyed, and it looked like it, and so
Bronwyn and Arendir, yeah.
Bronwyn and Arendir. Yeah, I mean, it's got the look. It's got for lack of a better term, it's got the texture of that money. Like you can see it a little bit. I know there was I think a couple of outdoor scenes that seemed to be shot in the studio, but I mean that's a quibble here and there. It's interesting that you point out that the shrinking of the sets when they have actual sort of a dramatic scene or whatever. It's just
Ah.
let's use that thing from the Flintstones. It's got stone walls, or whatever. But
Well, just
um,
you know what I think that's it's not a knock. It's just an
mm,
acknowledgement of the fact that it is television. It
yeah,
is upscale TV, but it's
yeah,
TV, and
yeah,
you only have so much set budget. You know,
yeah,
yeah, it sounds like you're going in the same direction. For myself, I'm like, you know what? They given the comparative resources, I think they really did a great job of capturing that same kind of epic, big, stylized look of Middle Earth that was in the original movies, which I think it's going to be compared to because, of course, it is, right?
yeah, yeah.
Would you buy that?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think they've done an admirable job so far. Again, we're only 3/8 of the way through so far, so I'd like to see it. Not that they shot it chronologically, but I'd be curious to see if it's consistent through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
DMG says, since when is 500 million so little that it's in today's dollars? Yeah, DMG. I know you're taking the piss, but yeah, today's dollars versus 200 million. And when were the original movies made? Early aughts, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, yeah, I think if we did the inflation, you'll find that they're spending less per hour than Peter Jackson was. That was the point I was trying to make. Yeah, it's still a lot of money, and you do see it on the screen. It is it's upscale TV like this.
mhm,
You know what? I'm gonna have to watch a lot more of Game of Thrones to see if it
oh,
compares. But anyway,
yeah.
anything else before we move into? Actually, before we move into something else, I want to talk about.
Oh,
Jim, is there anything else you want to add as far as craft goes? Like, I mean,
To me, the score is kind of interesting. In that it's maybe unlike TV and more like movies. It's kind of constant, and I would sort of caution them not to like fill up every second with music. Often music tells you how to feel, and I don't think any kind of intelligent audience needs that necessarily, but it's a little bit.
it should support the feeling, not
Yes,
inform you of the feeling.
just let it breathe. Give it a couple of seconds of silence here and there. It doesn't need to be sort of constant. It's if you watch '50s movies from the '50s, it's often constant music, and you sort of I don't feel it. A quibble. It's not a huge thing for me, but there's a couple Hobbit Harfoot scenes, and I thought, oh, just tone it down a bit,
Yeah.
but
Well,
yeah.
that's interesting you mentioned that. The one, and it is difficult. We're just not in the same environment as we can be in
Mm,
a theater, right?
yeah.
Where they can get those motifs and those light motifs uh, down for us because we're surrounded by
Mm,
a sound system. We're owned by the screen in front of us. Everything's dark. Uh, but I will say this: I couldn't hum the. I'm not sure I would recognize the
yeah.
main theme,
Mm, mm,
or any of the characters' themes. But that could also be that I'm just not listening for them as well. We'll have to
yeah.
see how it plays out. Uh, and DMG with is that 500 million in Canadian dollars? Well, it's all pretty good. As I plan a trip myself to foreign lands, the Canadian dollar's relative strength has been kind of making me more ambitious in my choices. Okay.
500 million gold pieces.
All right. Let's talk about Jim. We got to talk about this, and it is
Sure.
related to this. Uh, but before we do that, if anyone, if you're interested, a like, subscribe, ringy ding of that bell would be greatly appreciated. And if you did want to see, if you did want to see Jim's vacation pictures, you can find them at his Instagram, and all the links to both our social media handles, Twitter, etc., are in the description. Yeah, let's talk about Fanidiocy
Hmm.
and Elon Musk,
Yeah.
who apparently tweeted that J.R.R. Tolkien is rolling in his grave, rambling on about wokeism, and threw down this bon mot. Almost every male character so far is a coward, a jerk, or both. Only Galadriel is brave, smart, and nice.
Nice.
Well, and that's
I don't know if I call her nice, but
well,
anyway.
and you know what? I'm gonna save my comment on that
Mm,
um, for story, because I was like, "What? Is he watching the same show?"
yeah.
But also, you certainly know Ent saying, "Hey, give it a minute." But
Yeah.
I want to say what I did enjoy to his nonsense, and I don't know what it is, Jim, but there's something about, how do I put this? You gotta love Neil Gaiman. I guess one of his fans said, "Hey, did you see this? What do you think, Neil?" And Neil responded, "Elon Musk doesn't come to me for advice on how to fail to buy Twitter, and I don't go to him for film, TV, or literature criticism."
Yeah. No, it's a good response there.
Which I thought was just genius.
Hmm.
And how do I put this, Jim? this is going back. Remember a few months ago, all I said was, hey, this Galadriel, like, I mean, I'm looking
Oh
forward to
yeah.
seeing this character, right? And all the shit I took on Twitter for it.
Didn't you
I'm,
say that she was a kick-ass version of
yeah.
Galadriel or something like that? Yeah. Okay.
And for every one or two that were like, well, I thought the other one was kick ass, which is like, yeah, you know what? Fair point on what was a bit of a hot take for me. The rest was, oh, you're a soy boy and a communist, and, you know, this is wokeism and all this other bullshit. Jim, I think I wish I had I wish I had the wit. Well, this is why you have this is why Neil Gaiman's a professional writer and I'm
Yeah.
some guy on YouTube. I wish I had the wit and the skill to bring it down to that tight of a pushback, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want to say something, and it's interesting. This is something that occurred in a conversation I had actually with a couple of our regular subscribers. And it dawned on me as I hear about, oh, this is woke casting, this, you know, really just whining about the casting. And it dawned on me that any of this bullshit about casting, well, beyond just being bullshit, is the laziest non-criticism. Like, there are films that have chosen, say, an all-women cast, and that's all anyone's whining about, or some people are whining about, where it's like, you know, if you looked at the movie, it's a bad movie. It's just not that good, you know, but they get stuck on casting. The example I used in the conversation earlier was how people whined about Jack Reacher and how Tom Cruise cast himself in that role. He's a producer, develops his own projects, because he wasn't big enough. That these fans at this, no, it must be this way. This is the only way. It has to be exactly like it was in the book. And it's the same thing with this. It's the same thing with creating characters to provide more of a gender balance thing. It's like, what do you fucking care? Is it good? If it's good, great. Look at it that way. Get past the gender, like, or you just really have a problem with women. It's like, nope, it's all got to be men because that's the way it was before and that's the way it is now. I don't know, like, am I fucking crazy?
No, no. You know, you have basically, if people don't like the new stuff out, there's a channel called Turner Movie Classics where 90% of every cast is male for 100 years of movies.
And white.
And you know, with names like Gary and John and things like that. You know, it's funny. The best thing is those old war movies. They don't even, you know, it's just like all white men. You know, and
well,
the bad
listen,
guys have the accents.
There is a, you know, a let's say a Puerto Rican portrayal, a Puerto Rican character played by a white man with extra makeup.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, it's crazy, but yeah. I mean, there's lots of there's you will never watch all the movies, and they're on Channel 42. Have at it.
Maybe not in all markets we reach.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not blaming Turner Movie Class. Just the movie, you know, because they do show foreign movies and they do show Kurosawa, etc., etc. But you know, for the most part, their English language movies are pretty white because most movies have been pretty white. So
made by white men with white men.
Yeah,
and scene. Like it's the laziest non-criticism, and you know, like, I mean, the laziest, it's just the laziest thing, and it does. It's like, okay, Elon or any other idiot out there, your real problem is you don't like that it isn't a white guy. You know, and they'll get into the nitty gritty of, well, J.R.R. Tolkien didn't say that. It's like, how did you put it earlier, Jim? I remember it's like, if none of these things are open to change, well, why are we even bother making this stuff?
Mm.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there's our
Yeah.
thing on Fanidiocy. If you stumbled upon this later, love to hear what you think. And if it's just another bit of wokeism, we listen to your bullshit when you're whining about our take on a movie we liked, R.R.R. So I can put up with it in this. So have at it.
Yeah.
Guess that's an invitation to be ratioed.
Yes. Uh-oh.
All right, my
It's gonna
friend.
be a long week.
And I wonder if we've put the cats amongst the pigeons in in the chat. No, it doesn't look like we have. People are moving along. Oh, referring to Lumiere.
Yeah.
Lumiere brothers. Or Lumiere. Lumiere. That'd be Lumiere, right? I think it's Lumiere.
Lumiere, yeah. Yeah, I think so, yeah.
You know what? The French speakers in our chat will correct me,
Yes.
and I've committed to Lumiere. So you just have to say, Rob, you're wrong. Remember, at Rob Christensen. Okay. Let's get into the story of it.
Story.
Yeah. Going back to you're talking about Galadriel. We're kind of laughing about Musk's take on her.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'll tell you, Jim, and I'm still not 100% sure I am with everyone on this part. I am much happier with Galadriel now that there's characters that can hold their own with her without it being like you can't do that, little lady, or any of that BS. But I was like, at the beginning, I'm like, yeah, she's not nice. She's kind of a pill. She reminded me of Claire Danes' character in Homeland, a show that I just watched a little bit, and then I'm like, well, I don't want to watch wackadoo. I'm hunting for Sauron, even though everyone thinks I'm crazy. It managed to dig its way out of that. But was there any other character that or what did you think of her? And was there any other character where you're like, oh, I hope this goes in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, for her, she's got an edge to her, and she certainly isn't nice. That would not be. Maybe he meant nice. You know, he is a bit of a creeper, but yeah, I
No,
sort
that's
of
that poor Morford, or not Morford Clark, that poor Kavanaugh young lady who's going to get some creepy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, no, I sort of like her take, or the production's take on Galadriel. Like, she's kind of unpredictable at this point, and she's not like your typical heroine. So I'm sort of curious to see where it takes her, because it hints that she's very close to getting out of control. Like, she almost, she didn't almost, she created a mutiny amongst elves, which I don't think is super common. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know that any other character yet has taken me out of it. I'm the stranger. I'm a little bit like, start giving us throw us a bone.
Gandalf?
Yeah, I'm predicting. What's really funny is who's
okay,
Sauron?
Yeah.
But all these articles that are like, here are 5 people that Sauron might be, and it's like, that guy at the door, this other for the butcher, that kind of thing.
This
and it's
rando.
Just like, yeah, exactly. But I sort of need to be thrown a bone. I should mention, this is one thing I did want to mention. You have 4 sort of main stories, and at one point
so far,
4 are sort of like balls in the air. I'll refer to them as. And you had sort of an incommunicative being at the center of one, and the other 2 featured people who were in some form of prison. And these are sort of like not great for momentum building. Like it I can see it. I understand why writers have their characters captured or imprisoned. It's because that's part of the plan, and I recognize that now. But it's a heavy plot point. Like it drags. It's like having an unconscious character, kind of,
Yeah.
and it sort of drags it along. So you got three of those out of the four that are a little bit like, let's move it along a little bit. So that's just one of my issues right now is the momentum of it.
Yeah. I'm wondering, I agree with you, but I'm wondering if part of it is, okay, we need, in a way, we are now, we're getting out of the first act.
Yes. Yeah.
Finally, literally everyone is on the move.
Yeah.
Even Arondir has changed his circumstances, and we're about to learn something new.
Mhm.
So I think the imprisoning it, I mean, Arondir did move, but I think that's almost like okay, we've still got some more it's like holding up on the bridle on these characters because we still
Yeah.
got a bit more information to get out before we
Yeah.
can get into that second act, before the story in a way really starts.
Mhm.
But I agree with you, like, it's so tough, especially for something this big. It's like, how do you hold our attention
Mhm.
at the early part of any series where this is the time where you're like, I'm bored now. What else
Yeah.
is on?
Yeah.
I think they've managed. I know I'm still interested. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, I think this is the episode where I'm like, okay, now things are moving. I
Mhm.
feel like we're going somewhere. Things are getting. We're learning. They're building the melodramatic intrigue. They're
Mhm.
stuff's going on.
Yeah.
Schemes or plans are being laid. Like, I feel like uh yeah, this is, it got more interesting in this episode.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
DMG, damn those woke Dutch trying to recast the Candelabra characters. Especially those woke Dutch. Good one, DMG. Anyway, was there then for you, or actually, where
Sure.
do you see these four storylines going? What's your, yeah, let's speculate.
I
This
mean,
is the first time we've ever,
yeah.
where we could speculate. We could speculate on Soren's identity. I do think it's interesting that now we have in every, say, line, including that Hellbrand character who wanted to work with metal. I'm not saying
Mhm.
Hellbrand Soren. I'm saying
Yeah.
though that, yeah, the whole banging on metal is a thing now.
Mhm.
Isildur's sister, Elendil's daughter, a created character, Irin or something like that.
Oh
Um,
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
she is going to be one of the builders or something. Like, the trades are becoming a thing now.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
so yeah, where do you see these? What's your speculation on where these four storylines are going? Where do you think Hellbard, Hellbrand,
Yeah. Hellbrand. Yeah. I.
Hellbrand and Galadriel are going next? Do they stick together?
They sort of created this, for lack of a better term, Han Solo, Princess Leia kind of vibe thing going on. Not exactly, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah,
there's a sort of a chemistry there.
a good
Um,
tension.
yeah. Did you say ride? She just says to him, I think. No, that was the other guy she said that to. It was a good quote from her. It was that sort of great transitional quote. But yeah, I mean, I'm, I, yeah, I hesitate. Carl and I were talking about
No,
this. I'm not sure. Like, I gather that uh, the elf, the currently imprisoned elf, whose name I'll get right this time, Arondir,
yeah,
Arondir's, I think, headed to some kind of greatness, whether it's like some sort of battle captain or commander or something like that. and he's going to prove himself. He's been recaptured, and I'm guessing he's the first one to meet Sauron. I'm I will find out on Friday perhaps, but
Yeah.
so there's that. I guess the Harfoots become the Hobbits at some point, and one of these families might be the ones to say, "Screw it, I'm tired of traveling. We're going to stay here." So I think these are the origin stories of a lot of
Yeah.
not just Galadriel. But and we know what happens with Elrond, of course, but and Durin, if you read any of that stuff. But yeah, so I suspect these are the seeds of something.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah, I think that's you're
I mean,
absolutely
that's
right,
not
but that's
obvious
not
to say, but
speculating at all.
yeah,
Okay. Let me ask you this. This
it's a
is
hard one
maybe
though.
we're
It's
gonna.
it's yeah,
I, it's why we're in speculation land. This
yeah.
isn't. Let's not try to be right. Let's
Okay.
pretend as though we're the storytellers ourselves. You just more for the fun of it. And I encourage everyone in the chat and people who come by later, love to, don't think of it as a theory. Think of it as your opportunity to play showrunner. Maybe I think maybe that's the direction we're going in here. Imagine you're the showrunner. If it doesn't play out that way, who knows? Maybe your idea was better, or maybe it sparked something else. Who cares? What do you think where would you go with the stranger?
Well, he's already made himself useful.
Yep.
Number one, so he's not just a
Oh,
he's not just a
there we go.
drain. That Nori actually sort of put her family on the line for in this is pretty unforgiving Harfoot / Hobbit society. Like the whole Left Behind thing is kind of chilling. Landslides, I get it, but
He got stuck.
yeah, yeah, that's a little bit of putting the elder on the ice floe kind of
Well,
thing.
look at even poor Poppy
Yeah,
pulling her own
yeah,
cart. She is
yeah,
alone.
yes, yeah,
It's one of the reasons I love it when I see those characters on the
mm,
screen. The stakes are real in a way for them that isn't for the other characters because they're all such big heroes.
yeah, yeah.
Here it's like real life. It's real life, man. I don't mean it, but do you
I
know
know
what I
what you
mean?
mean.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, real life stakes, and I think that's why I feel for them in a way I don't feel for the others. I
mm,
also don't think that it's a small group. They're small in
mhm.
stature. They're like, I love the way we couldn't welcome them in, but we welcome them in now. Like, I mean, that scene is just, it reveals so much. It also advances the plot. It reveals the stakes. And I think
Mhm,
we can pull some themes out of that. Yeah,
mhm.
So back to the stranger though.
The
What would you
stranger.
do with them?
Uh, well, the thing that mystifies me is, and I think he's probably a force for good, but when was it the fireflies, as soon as he made contact with them, they started dying and their lights went out, and I thought, yeah, oh, like what is was it? So that's the sort of one that was
It's a
confusing for
little
me.
foreboding. Like,
Foreboding, or is it just that he doesn't know how to use his power in this place? That's the other way that it could go, I guess. But you're going to have to give him some way to communicate, and he's sort of got friend Nori, like he can say 2 or 3 words at this point. But yeah, I guess just being more communicative. I'm trying to think of the way that what would Peter Jackson do, and how he would handle a story point like that.
yeah. Which is
But
on a little
yeah,
side note, it is interesting. Peter Jackson hasn't said shit about this, which I love.
yeah, yeah.
It's like great. Unlike Elon Musk, there's a guy who knows. It's like, well, let them have their story. You know,
Apparently, he was a little bit ghosted too by them, But anyway,
Well,
that's a whole
why do they
other.
have to go kiss his ring?
Mm, mm.
You know, ain't his
Yeah,
story anymore.
yeah, exactly. Well, what do you think's going to happen with the stranger? Like, how
I
do you see that?
there's a part of me. It's like, well, that's all I can think of. Well, that's got to be. It doesn't have to be, but I'm like, if someone would give me even decent odds, doesn't have to be even crazy odds, decent odds, I'd be betting on Gandalf.
Yeah, yeah.
That's you know,
Somebody made a Mandalorian joke saying, "I'm enjoying this Rings of Power thing, but I thought Baby Gandalf was taking it too far," and they had a little Baby Gandalf, a la Baby Yoda.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was funny.
Um, what I think, let's say and I think of this for Arendir, but it could be Hellbrand. Uh, Galadriel, they're not going to do anything too crazy with that character. And that may be part of the challenge, which is why they're kind of making her a pill now, because her big long arc is to, in a way, calm down.
Yeah.
You know, to take a longer view. Although, you know, they're all so long lived, it's like, longer view of what? But, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Because she gets so wise in Lord of the Rings, like she's more a wise force, not a woman of action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering though, who is going to be? I gotta admit, if it was me, I'd be like, who do we turn? Who gets turned? Who succumbs to the power? Because you've got these rings get made. They're going to be doing this for 5 seasons. That's 40 plus hours of television. We're gonna get a big long arc, including men and dwarves corrupted. And have we met one of them? I got to admit, like, this is where I'd start sowing that stuff. And is it Hellbrand or is it even Arendir? You know, like, you know, and especially these characters that were written for us. You know, we know Isildur's path. We know Elendil's path. The characters where we know their path, they're constrained to a degree.
Yeah.
The characters that they're writing, that they've created for it, that's where they have some opportunities. And so, yeah, are Arendir and Bronwyn part of a tragic love story? Because that's the other way you could take it. That would be really cool. Yeah, I got to admit, but I'd pick one of them to turn. I would. What I love about the Harfoots is that they did kind of, I think it's one area where I'm like, I trust these showrunners because I look at this, it's like, they really got the role of the hobbits in the other books. That there has to be somebody like us, you know, under these great worthies, these capital H heroes, that we can relate to, that become important later. So I think they're going to do that because, of course, they are. There's a reason the stranger landed there and not in, you know, the front of Khazad-dûm or any of the other big shot places, which is super. I think that captures Tolkien, say, spiritually better than, you know, any of the whining about casting. But yeah, so I got to admit though, but I'd look at who do we turn here? Who walks the dark side? Who crosses over? Who gets tempted? Maybe, you know, another thing you could do that's interesting is maybe Galadriel does get tempted, you know, because they are temptable.
Yeah.
You know, you know what I mean? Like character-wise, they're all. We've learned that in the other stories, books, and you know, Galadriel is tempted when Frodo offers her the ring, and you know, they're all tempted, and that's why they, you know, no, So
Well,
there you go. There's some ideas for you of where I think you could go with this.
there's a couple of pot shots that they've not really pot shots, but they've taken it the youths of the show, including Bronwyn's son, who found the naughty sword underneath the floorboards or wherever, and so
Yeah,
there's and then of a similar age
almost
you
a
have
Jimmy.
yeah, exactly. And of a similar age, you have Isildur, and again, we know sort of what his path was. So
Yeah,
it's these teens. It's these teens that this is going to change the tide, but it doesn't end well, right? I
yeah,
mean, this is the where it leads to disaster,
yeah.
and so it's going to
They're
be
all tragedies.
yeah.
Even when the good guys win, or maybe the way, what's his name, Williams, Professor Williams, he would call them melodramas.
Mhm.
It's over a long time, and there's real pain at the end, where everyone who gets through, even the heroes, are damaged in a way.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
destroyed, but damaged.
Okay.
I took the thing off. DMG says, is anyone watching House of the Dragon movie guy? Elon Musk thinks I should be recast after one of the billionaires that he wants to have better representation. Good one, DMG. Anyway,
Oh, Jelly Duck's here.
Ahmed. Good to see you. I could imagine if Gollum Smeagol was still alive. Ooh, do we see? Good point.
Is it too early, or is it? Yeah, I was sort of thinking that myself.
I think it is, but
Yeah.
I mean, it depends. Do we see the battle? It's just never ending. This is the final alliance of elves and men, and then there's another, and then there's another. But at the end of 40 hours, do we get a wicked battle, the final alliance? Sauron, not just that he creates all these rings, but Sauron is also not destroyed but defeated. Isildur, we're meeting Isildur,
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that's in the end. That's the end of this larger arc. Although maybe somebody knows better. They've read an interview. Please comment comment below if you're seeing this later or in the description. Jim, let's
Sure.
we've gone way late.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to be way late. So let's move on. But what were you say your piece?
I just had one quick question for you. When watching Lord of the Rings or reading the book, we're given to the fact that we're told that the elves are sort of superhuman a little bit. Here, I'm not used to seeing elves that are scared or retreating as much. I know they do sometimes, that kind of thing, but they seem to be a little more vulnerable in this portrayal of elves than in the movie. Are you getting any of that?
That's a great point.
Am I off, or?
I think the criticism. This is one of the criticisms of the first episode. I would have larger than a quibble, but not a beef. To show that Galadriel is super soldier, there's a battle with a snow troll, some beast, and the elves in it, and this sets a tone that it's hard to get it out of your head. The other elves are just schmucks.
Yeah.
But I watched a great video. So something sarcastic, OSP. They did a great thing on one ninja deadly, 40 ninjas, they're all schmucks. The hero's going to win. And I think the reverse holds true. If it's the hero against a baddie, the hero can be vulnerable. They can get beat up. But if the hero's with 10 friends, then the hero's going to be super soldier. And this is, I think, one of the storytelling challenges they have, that they have not gotten over is they and we've seen this example in a few scenes, but all of a sudden it's like, if Galadriel ain't getting beat up, then we're never like, there she is, she gets off the boat and it's like, guess I'll swim half an ocean, and then all of a sudden she's treading water as she argues with the people who can save her. And then when she gets on the boat, she's tired. Like, they're having a problem there. Otherwise, like, let's say the elves in the prisoner camp, everyone seemed a lot more even. Every elf had their moment of looking like super soldier. I was more comfortable with that, and that vulnerability I bought because we have heard elves do get captured. They do get tortured, and us seeing it is really it's the first time we get to see this versus the movies where we didn't see many. They're all kind of in their own group. We only had one who served a certain role. In a group. Does that make sense?
That fight scene was actually pretty gory. The first time that we've actually seen, besides orcs getting their heads cut off, is that we've seen that level of gore, and that was kind of shocking too. So,
which I'm okay with. It's kind of like the stakes for the Harfoots. They don't show us. Well, okay, the breaking of the foot. It's like, I just twisted it. What are you talking about?
It's immediately gangrenous.
Let's new for Marvel. This is Matthew David Boren. I'm calling him MDB now. MDB. New from Marvel. Elves, the first super soldiers.
Yeah.
Good one. All right. Back to this. And let's talk about briefly. And I think for now we can say briefly, we got to let the whole series play out. But briefly, what meaning, what themes are explored so far, and are any of the themes they're exploring here any different than the Tolkien, let's say the movies or the books?
Yeah, I mean, they're very specific about it. They mention the word, even saying the word friend, a lot, several times in one episode. I think maybe the latest episode.
This last episode, that's Nori's conflict with the group.
Yeah.
What's the point if we can't be there for friends?
Yeah. And it's mentioned otherwise where it's explored between Elrond and Durin. And they talk about. I think the art
friend of other.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not just the importance of that, and it's not just you can boil it down to something as like working together, but I think it's the whole the value of diplomacy and probably. That sounds kind of clunky, but it has to do with that working. And I don't think it's together.
I don't think diplomacy would be the right word, but.
No. But you know what I mean? Like
it
has to do with every one of these races is a different nation basically, and they do better when they're and their societies are more vital when they're collaborating.
Yes.
And for whatever reason they seal themselves off, some old slight or some change in the temperament of the population. A lot. Not like Numenor
absolutely.
And the elves and the dwarves and the elves and this and that. And so there's the one that stands alone is sort of more speaking of vulnerable, is more vulnerable and prone to rot, more prone to just sort of like a societal collapse kind of as we find out, if you look at dwarven history. Fictitious dwarven history, but
but even the elves, even they all, as you look inward, Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think friend and that whole idea of not closing in on yourself. Even the way the Harfoots behave, that kind of okay, we got to be self-reliant. You literally pull your own weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know, in having to pull their own houses, that,
Mm-hmm.
you're not in the caravan, or you can't be at the front of the caravan because, oh, excuse me, somebody's getting punished. And who saves them? That stranger, because that is the character's name right now, the stranger, you know?
Yeah.
And then he reacts with friend, and that's the so important. It's so important at the end of the episode of today's
Yeah.
episode. And yeah, like that ball you're talking about. Yeah, no, I think that's great. Do you think, though, another? I think you're absolutely bang on right now. Another one, though, does seem to be, and this maybe they can't help it. If you're going to do a Lord of the Rings, it's all semi-tragic, or like I said, semi-melodramatic. There is that idea of, yes, there'll be renewal, but we'll come back to this again. You know what? This is a great time, but it'll go to shit again. Doesn't mean you don't do it, but it does mean that there is no. I think Tolkien really he was very Catholic, capital C Catholic, but a part of Catholic thinking saying, yeah, you know what? Until it's all going to crap, until you die and heaven and beyond. But humanity is imperfectible without grace at the end times, let's say. The best you can do is be true to and fight the fight. Almost I don't want to say apocalyptic, because that word, and it's been taken over by American Christianity and goes in a totally wackadoo direction. But I think there's still that vibe, and you can't get rid of it. And I'm glad they haven't tried to get rid of it. Be perfectly honest. Yeah. Maybe you know what? Maybe the next one we do, we'll invite Eric Williams back, because I'd love to get his take on this. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
It's been a while. It's been a minute, as the kids say.
It's been too long. I mean, I'd love to have him back if he'll come back.
Yeah.
All right. With that out of I don't want to say out of the way. That sounds so bad. But you know what, Jim? Why don't you tell us about the next movie? I think it is that time.
Well, we're looking at a movie called Code 8 that we've decided on. I science fiction. So getting away from the fantasy a little bit, but made in Canada with some Canadian actors. And at the head, I took a quick look at it at the Wikipedia entry this evening, just boning up. As I was driving home from the volunteer. Lake, driving backwards down Trans-Canada Highway. No, so that's the one we're looking at. I think we're talking about this, may be subject to change, but we'll for now it's Code 8.
We'll keep everyone apprised. Yeah, Code 8 is Code 8 is what we're looking at. It is on Netflix, at least here in Canada, but I believe it's I believe that's everywhere right now. Or free on YouTube, one of those weird things. Okay, now that we've got that away, of course, one more time to beg you all for a like, a subscription, if you haven't already, and of course, ringy-ding that bell.
It feels so small after we're talking about Lord of the Rings. It's like, I doth cleave this bell from the fires of hell. Something. Need a bigger run up for that or something.
And of course, you can find us on social media. Jim's handle for Instagram and Twitter links in the description, as are mine. And so, yeah, please follow us on social media. Feel free to tell us, hey, you know what? We're thinking about what you said in the show the other day. You're talking out of your ass. Okay, let's move forward.
Sure.
Kate, I know it's the director pass or fail. You know what? There's a number of great directors working on this. So maybe we should almost kind of think, Reed, are we giving this? It's an interim mark. This is their first term mark.
Yes, yeah.
For the
Good
showrunners,
point.
their directorial team and their writers room. First term. It's for 3 episodes of an 8-episode season. Are we giving them a pass or a fail?
Yeah, I'd give him a pass so far. Would it be high B, low A? I don't know, somewhere around there. Yeah, give him a B plus right now. Yeah, like I'm enjoying it and eager to see where it's headed. So,
yeah.
How about you?
I'm with you. I think B plus, solid B plus.
Mm.
Yeah, almost A, but you know,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, like you say, the ends. Don't rush.
Yeah, don't be hasty. I'm saying that very fast for them, but
love to see anyone in the chat what your mark you'd give them. Feel free to throw that in there, and I will make sure to read them off before we sign off. Speaking of signing off, before that, any final thoughts, Jim?
When the orcs were digging under the house and when those claws grabbed at our hero, I thought, that's what Lord of the Rings needs: tremors. I have expected Kevin Bacon to come out in jeans in the desert, and but yeah, no, I was like, these got to be orcs, right? But anyway, turns out that.
Now there's one more thing that I was like, kind of, oh, apparently they're like vampires now, burn in the sun. Now I know there was references to that in the book, but I always in the books, but I always read that as a metaphorical, like they don't like the light because things can be seen in the light, and that, I mean, yeah, this is the first time I've seen orcs that they literally have to crawl under the ground. That said, who knows? Maybe that's a Silmarillion thing. Like, I mean,
yeah, and they're a created race too. That I think they improve. That's where we get the Uruk-hai. Is that they're an improved version of
new and improved.
Orcs. Yeah, exactly. But I guess that's probably something along those lines. But
yeah, no, you're right. Okay, doesn't look like we have anyone chiming in on the chat as far as their marks, but that doesn't mean they haven't been wonderful, because of course, Jim, we are the home of the best chat on the internet.
We are.
With this in mind, I want to say, first of all, let's say welcome and good night to our chat, including our man in Australia. That would be Matthew David Boren. Who's got a great kind of chat like a chat stream regarding religiosity, prehistoric times, etc. Who else we got? Of course, our man in Kuwait City, Ahmed, Jelly Duck 100. Good to see you. Thanks for coming out. I think I'm forgetting somebody. Who would that
Richard
be?
Oh, sorry.
No, it's chime in.
Oh, Richard and Katie.
Well, it wasn't the person I was thinking of, but Richard L. and Katie Fowler. Thank you both for coming by, and then of course the man, myth, a different legend.
Yes,
our occasional collaborator and guest and great friend of the show, Dragon Movie Guy. And we will man the Twitter ramparts to defend you from Elon Musk's pressure to recast in the House of the Dragon movie.
We should be,
which is a great bit, DMG. You should do.
We should be gentle with him. His old quarterback starts for Denver tomorrow night. So, let's be sympathetic to our friend in Henderson.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Okay, with that out of the way, again, just a reminder, folks. The next movie next week, right now, we're doing Code 8, sci-fi flick on Netflix here in Canada and other places around the globe. Check it out and then join us next week, Sunday, same time, hopefully 9:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. We appreciate you folks coming around, and I think, Jim, this is the time let's wave goodbye. Bye-bye,
Say friend,
everybody.
say friend, and enter.
Oh, yes. Ding, ding, ding. Those were different times.
They were.
All right. Ciao,